What's up, everyone? Sean here, and just wanted to sit down and take this chance to talk about the major film that has been released during the later half of November, featuring Matt Damon and Christian Bale, both big stars, and I do like them, at least to some extent. And of course, this deals with another thing that I was at least at some point was super passionate about in my life, which was cars. In the past, I've uploaded videos featuring my car, first being a Toyota Celica from 2001. I think I uploaded that around like 2010, early 2010s, or somewhere right before 2010, and then I have also featured my Lexus IS250, which I still drive to this day. And point being, I still love cars to some extent. It's just that it's not the same degree of love I had back then. My interests have shifted somewhat, but this does give me some reminders and it provides little sparks to kind of rekindle my love for cars and their history, of course. And this definitely does deal with both of these things, these aspects. This is based off of a true event. So I guess you can say it's sort of like a autobiography, but not really. It's not really focused super hard on the people themselves, but the whole event itself, so to speak. And it was the event of pretty much the war between Ford and Ferrari, hence the name. Basically, it features Ford and Ferrari going at it essentially, and Ferrari has been on a roll during like the Le Mans, which is basically those long races that they hold for the world, and around the time Ferrari was winning these things, and one of the key characteristics about the Le Mans is that it's a 24-hour endurance race, and Ferrari has always come out on top again during that time. So America wanted to essentially beat Ferrari, the Italian car company that is known for the supercars still to this day, and they were exceptionally well crafted back then, and they definitely had something to back up their degree and stuff at the time. But anyway, Ford just really wanted that piece of that, so they built their own supercar, the Ford GT, and then it became the Ford GT40, and then later on it got retrofitted to retrofitted, but for the sake of the consumers, as the Ford GT, which was another well-known car, infamous for its own things, but I'm not going to get into that too much. But anyway, that's where the Ford GT sort of comes from. It has a sort of that the racing degree sort of etched into its name because of what happened with in these events. So we are dealing with Ken Miles, the driver, the essential one of the essential people who made this happen, along with Carroll Shelby. Carroll Shelby, for those who don't know, is he was a racer himself. He definitely won a number of races, and he retired at some point to focus on selling cars of his own. Hence the Shelby Cobras that we car enthusiasts come to know and love to this day. And they had been working with Ford in the past, and I think in fact they are under contract with Ford still. I think I don't know nowadays, but at some point, yes, they made the Shelby Cobra or the Cobra Mustang and all that fancy jazz, and that's all from Carroll Shelby himself. Ugh, my English, but yeah, this shows you how much my inner car enthusiast is kind of coming out because of a film like this. So the film itself surrounds that event, racing and cars and witty people at that, and of course, well, the clash of two companies or two corporations, you can say. That's all in this film, and it's really interesting to see how things were behind the scenes, and how the drama was, what the people were like towards each other, and there is definitely a antagonist of sorts, probably maybe over exaggerated for the sake of to make the movie interesting, but there was definitely a level of drama during the real thing, and that definitely was felt here to some degree, and it was all interesting. Overall, the film itself was good. I enjoyed it. It was a well-paced movie featuring cars and racing and everything else in between, including corporations. Including the major player here, Ford. Ford is the car company that pretty much standardized mass production for cars anyway. If it really wasn't for Henry Ford, things would be very different. Let's just say for today. But anywho, we are dealing with one of I believe the grandson of Henry Ford. So this is Henry Ford II here, and there's a funny little bit about his name or his title or whatever, his generation and stuff, from Mr. Ferrari himself. So, or let's just say the head of the company Ferrari, and he jokes about his name and stuff like that, his prestige and pedigree and his lineage and all that stuff. He made fun of that and call him names and stuff, and that's pretty much one of the matches to light this war up that all happened in the first place. So anyway, it was really really interesting, and it was well paced. Didn't really find myself bored with it. There was a lot of good exchanges of dialogue, and I really gotta say that Matt Damon still looks pretty young. It's very uncanny. At least people like Brad Pitt has age. You can definitely tell, but he still looks good for his age. He definitely is rocking that older look. Just like how he rocked his own look when he was in his prime, I guess you can say. But back to Matt Damon, he just not only he looked good for the film, he definitely performed well as Carroll Shelby. So he definitely boasts that car loving sort of mechanic head sort of vibe, and of course I think the main attraction here, in my opinion anyway, was Christian Bale as Ken Miles. Again, Ken Miles is the racer, and he really sold the English accent. He really, I think he's definitely always like such a character in these films. I always loved him from like American Psycho, and of course he portrayed a very memorable Batman. Whether it's the best Batman, that's up to debate, but here definitely is a good performance, and definitely if this film, I feel this is kind of like a Academy Award bait show or whatever. It's such an Academy Award sort of movie. I think it will at least be nominated for several awards, and I feel definitely that Christian Bale is definitely up there as best supporting actor. He really nailed the character of Ken Miles, and maybe of course it's a lot of these are dramatizations or exaggerations for the sake of the film, but it was still very entertaining, and it does accentuate the essence of Ken Miles. He definitely showed the love absolutely for racing. It was very believable. The feel of racing, the body language and all that stuff. I even believe that he once again lost weight drastically just to just to make the character that much more believable. He had that that slim look to him, kind of bony, and he looked very tan and all that stuff, being a racer and all that. From standing out in the sun for a very long time, just like racers do. That's it's a lot. A number of these races are outdoors, so that really explains things. But point being, he really goes so far to at least sell the body aspect of things for a lot of these characters. I mean, including Batman, and Bruce Wayne is being super well built, and he can do that, right after films that are drastically different. So, I think he was the machinist or something like that. He was like super skinny, but I can probably am getting that mixed up with someone else. But again, point being, he went from super skinny to super buff, and then super skinny to super buff, and then back to super skinny again. I think right now, he's perfectly normal, but or like just like you would see in American Psycho, that sort of physique for right now. I assume anyway. But back here, sorry, Christian Bale, he really sells everything about his characters, as always, including, of course, the character, the persona, the personality, the vibe, and of course the physique. So he really goes so far to make these films with himself and all that. Great. And Ford versus Ferrari is definitely no exception. There is a great degree of character progression going on here, and there are some intense moments with the racing. There's actually a pretty good amount of racing, it felt like, at least for the later half. A lot of the beginning was, of course, the build-up, so naturally there's a lot of just talking and not a whole lot of action here, but there are some entertaining moments, and including the fight between Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby, of course, that you saw with the groceries and stuff, and it was shown off in the trailer, which was funny, and you can see a whole fight here, and it was awesome. There was one other actor that I liked as well. I forget his name. He is the Punisher right now for at least for the Netflix series, but I'm not really too sure. I forget his name. Forgive me, but his performance was pretty good as a side character for what the role he was given. There were actually a number of memorable characters in here as well. One of the engineers / mechanics, he had a mustache. He's white. He was very, very entertaining as well. So it really goes to show that not only Matt Damon and Christian Bale carried their weight, everyone else did as well, including Ken Burns' wife, his son, and of course, the head of Ferrari, of course, and lastly, you definitely cannot forget Mr. Ford himself. He definitely left some sort of impression from the movie. Yeah, so everyone else was really entertaining, and including all the other racing teams that kind of made some short appearance. Like everyone did their part great, and I thought everything else was entertaining. So I'm not really gonna go into the spoilers because it's not so much of a conversation piece that I would like to get into this time around. It's very straightforward from a surface level, like it's a racing movie, so you'll know what kind of happens. But getting there and all the in-betweens and all the pieces to kind of lay out for the puzzle, those are all well put together, and it really meant well to, sell this film. And, Ford versus Ferrari, that's something I would recommend to anyone who likes Matt Damon, Christian Bale, and of course cars, especially with Ford and Ferrari. It's a really fascinating kind of piece of history within the automobile industry, or just American history in general. It is a memorable part of American history. America won, and the Ford GT was, I guess, the only car, and Ford, I guess, it was the only American company, to ever win these Le Mans races. I think ever since then, it's kind of a mix, and I think even at some point, the Mazda RX-8 or the rotary engine car was so good that the rotary engine was banned from the main Le Mans lineup, and I think they just have their own race at that point because of the nature of those engines, as long as you provide enough oil and fuel. So that, but correct me if I'm wrong, of course. My memory is a little foggy, but I just remember rotary engines just being so good for these endurance races. Anyways, besides the point, Ford versus Ferrari, really enjoyed it for what it was. It's one of the more of those drama-esque movies, so don't expect any like action sort of movies. Just me coming from like watching Terminator Dark Fate or Rambo at that. This is kind of like the more on the opposite end. I guess the super opposite end of things would be something like what was it? Astral something. It was with Brad Pitt with that space movie. I'm already forgetting that film. Forgive me, but anyways. So Ford vs Ferrari, it was super enjoyable for what it was. So if I had to give it a rating, I think for a drama movie, I'm gonna give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. There was just good, just the right amount of like entertaining things, but also character exhibition was great here, and it was very character driven, and of course you have the story of the race and stuff like that with the Le Mans, and it was a really interesting thing to watch when it comes to the history aspect of things as well, because I love history for the parts I like, like cars and world wars and stuff like that, anything surrounding that. I take super interest in, so Ford vs Ferrari definitely tickled that fancy of mine. And so therefore I very much enjoyed it. So again, it's a 8.5 out of 10. And if you like anything related with not Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Christian Bale, Ford, Ferrari, or just cars in general, or history of America, this is definitely something to check out. Their performance was great. The side characters were great, and everything else was great in here. The race itself, the intense moments, it was well shot, choreographed, and the music, of course, what it was like, it filled in those gaps, definitely helped those moments whenever it was necessary. It's really it gets kind of drowned out by the race itself. So but it's definitely there to help fill in the gaps. So if it wasn't really there, you're gonna be like, what's going on here? But anyways, point being, I enjoyed it. So if you like those things that I mentioned already, go out there and see it, and I think you'll enjoy it. So unless you're just only into like the super actiony stuff. And also, this is a very like Oscar bait sort of film as well, or Academy Award bait, that sort of thing too. So you're gonna probably see Matt Damon and Christian Bale being nominated this many times for Ford versus Ferrari. So that's pretty much it for me. Before I go into circles, that's pretty much all I got to say about Ford versus Ferrari. Hope you guys check it out as soon as you can, while it's still out there. And don't forget to hit the likes and subscribe and comment if you have anything related to the movie to say, if you have seen it already. It helps out the channel, and really appreciate it, guys. And and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and set the setting to all, so that way you can see more videos from this channel from me. So again, this has been my review for Ford versus Ferrari, the movie featuring the Ford GT40 and whatever Ferrari car it was. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Sean out.